we have a new name for the coronavirus. The World Health Organization has officially called it COVID-19. Co for corona, Vi for virus, D for disease, and 19 because it started last year. The name, though, of course, isn't the most pressing concern. On Monday in China, it suffered its highest number of deaths in one day. 103 people died just in Hubei province.
Growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know. A Washington state resident fell ill after returning from Wuhan, China, where the outbreak began. Officials now say more than 400 people have been sickened and 9 people have died. The World Health Organization is holding an emergency meeting right now. Kena Whitworth is in Seattle. Has the latest.
The first death from coronavirus here in the United States. A man in his 50s dying from COVID-19 infection in Washington state. Authorities describe him as an at-risk patient, but say he had no apparent travel to China. It is one of several new cases there. The governor declaring a state of emergency.
All over the world, and I'm fighting for them, not just in the U.S. I'm fighting for them all over the world. We're going to beat this coronavirus, or whatever you want to call it, and we're going to beat it soundly.
Everyone knows that the past 3 years have been tough, depressing, and stressful. For me personally, 2020 was the worst year of my life, for multiple reasons. One, obviously, being the pandemic. The virus was first discovered in December 2019. On January 12, 2020, China officials shared news of a new respiratory disease called coronavirus. Japan confirmed its first case on January 16, 2020. Kanagawa, a prefecture, was where it was found. The United States confirmed its first case on January 20th, 2020. The first case was found in Washington state. Shanghai Disneyland was the first park to close. Shanghai Disney, Disneytown, Walt Disney Grand Theater, and Wishing Star Park closed on January 25th, 2020. Disney announced the closures on January 24th. Guests were issued refunds for park tickets and resort reservations. Refunds for Beauty and the Beast Mandarin production tickets at the Walt Disney Grand Theater were also issued. At the time it closed, Disney didn't release any additional information except that they were monitoring the situation with the local government and would announce the guidelines and reopening date as soon as possible. The very next day, Disney announced that they would be temporarily closing Hong Kong Disneyland in cooperation with the Hong Kong government's prevention efforts. The park closed on January 26, but the Hong Kong Disneyland Hotel, Explorers Lodge, and Disney's Hollywood Hotel remained open. However, a few days later, the resort restaurants closed on February 1st. And then on February 3rd, 2020, Disney's Hollywood Hotel and Explorers Lodge closed. Around that time, CNN reported that more than 9,709 cases and 213 deaths were confirmed in China. With community spread making the virus more and more dangerous in Asian countries, and Japan confirming its first COVID-related death on February 13th, 2020, Tokyo Disneyland and Disney Sea closed on February 29th. This closure was initially announced as a 2-week closure, as they planned to reopen on March 15th. Japan's government issued a request to cancel or postpone large gatherings or events just days before Tokyo Disney's closure. At the time of this request, Japan had more than 900 cases and 8 COVID-related deaths. There were 2,800 deaths worldwide and more than 83,000 cases. Tokyo Disney refunded resort bookings and park tickets. COVID started to quickly become a problem outside of the continent of Asia when March 2020 came. The World Health Organization, or the WHO, declared COVID a pandemic on March 11, 2020, and the first U.S. restrictions began on March 12th as an outbreak began in New Rochelle, New York. On March 13th, President Donald Trump declared a national emergency in the U.S. Because of this, many businesses and events started closing and or canceling. Disneyland was the first U.S. park to announce its closure. It did so on March 12, 2020. Disneyland had only closed 4 times before. November 23, 1963 in remembrance of President John F. Kennedy, August 6, 1970 because of the Yippee Riot, January 17th, 1994, because of the 6.7 magnitude Northridge earthquake, and September 11th, 2001. Disneyland closed on March 14th, 2020. Resorts on property remained open until March 16th. Refunds were issued to guests who canceled their trip. Changing the date was also an option. On the same day, Disneyland Paris and Walt Disney Studios Park closed. The Disney Village closed on March 15th, along with Disneyland Paris Resort closing as guests left. Guests had until April 15th to change or cancel their booking. Both of these closures were only supposed to last through the end of the month. Later on March 12th, Disney announced the closure of all Disney World parks, resorts, Disney Springs, and Disney Cruise Line. Disney World would close on March 15th, 2020.
So I haven't even told anybody this information that I just got literally minutes ago. And I was telling them how I just got done recording 45 minutes of information on what's happening at Disneyland, Disney World, and Disney Cruise Line. And then within a matter of one phone call with Nicole, it all changed. Completely and totally.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
That's the crazy part of it.
And all that happened a half hour ago.
Everything, literally a half hour ago. Let me tell everybody what's going on. So, dealing with the coronavirus and Disney parks and Disney Cruise Line, within the past 24 hours, a lot of information has changed. The world is shut off from Disney parks and Disney Cruise Line. The world.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not just talking Disneyland. We're not just talking Disney World. We're talking all over the world.
At this point in time, the sun has set on Disney World.
I never thought I would see this day, that the entire world would just be cut off.
we never thought we would see the day where the sun's only shining on a Disney park somewhere. Disney World being closed is nothing new. We've had it happen with hurricanes.
We have.
But we're talking all seven? No.
All seven, and for an extended period of time. I mean, before, when it hurricanes, 1 or 2 days. That's fine.
An update announced that Disney would continue to pay its cast members during the closure. Disney World had closed 8 times before, many having to do with severe weather. September 14th, 1999 due to Hurricane Floyd, September 11th, 2001, August 13th, 2004 due to Hurricane Charlie, September 4th and 5th, 2004 due to Hurricane Francis, September 26th, 2004 due to Hurricane Jane, October 6th, 2016 due to Hurricane Matthew, September 9th, 2017 due to Hurricane Irma, and September 3rd, 2019 due to Hurricane Dorian. Disney Cruise Line suspended all new departures starting on March 14th, 2020. The cruise ships themselves docked various places around the world. The Disney Magic and Disney Dream sailed to Castaway Cay a few times so crew could get off the ship, due to the CTC not allowing disembarkation. The Disney Wonder was forced to dock in San Diego, and 1,980 passengers had to disembark. Passengers reported no positive COVID cases, but by April 5th, 38 crew members had tested positive. This situation became quite controversial, as Disney had told the media that no crew members tested positive. A passenger who was on the cruise that got cut short said that Disney had not even tested passengers when they were getting off the ship, and that no health screening activities had happened while guests disembarked. They also had said that the only health screening Disney had done on the sailing was during check-in 2 weeks before. So Disney was a little dishonest to the media with this whole situation and claimed that no one had tested positive on the Wonder, even though crew members were actively getting sick and passengers weren't even tested. The Disney Wonder was placed under a no-sail order by the CDC. Approximately 700 crew members were stuck on this ship. Alani, a Disney resort and spa, closed on March 24th, 2020. Disney automatically canceled all reservations from March 24th through the 31st. a week before, Hawaiian state officials had urged visitors to cancel or postpone visits and businesses to close. Now, it was time to wait. The lockdown had begun worldwide and people were stuck in their homes. We all remember this time. Schools were finishing classes on Zoom, work was closed except for essential workers, restaurants were only serving takeout, and it felt like the world would never be normal again.
Large sections of our country as we near the end of our historic battle with the invisible enemy. We're going for a while, but we win. We win. I said earlier today that I hope we can do this by Easter. I think that would be a great thing for our country, and we're all working very hard to make that a reality.
Disney fans were trying to find ways to entertain themselves while they couldn't go to the parks. Fans did this by watching Disney Plus, watching Disney Park related videos, cooking Disney recipes that were released on the Disney Parks blog, chatting on Zoom or Discord with friends/family about the parks, or playing Disney video or board games. I remember that I got Disney Color Brain during the pandemic and played that a lot with friends and family. Why do I remember ordering this game on the Target website and picking it up on curbside pickup? Because that was one of the very, very, very few times I actually left the house. And if you think I'm kidding, I'm not. We also waited for an announcement about the parks reopening. But more bad news came as the CDC extended the no-sail order for cruise ships in April 20, meaning the cancellations for Disney Cruise Line were announced. Disney canceled all sailings on the Magic, Dream, and Fantasy through May 17th. When May 17th rolled around, Disney had to cancel even more sailings through July, including the Magic's European sailings. Guests affected by the cancellations were offered the choice of a 125% future cruise credit to be used for a future sailing within 15 months of their original sail date, or a full refund. With the ships not being able to sail, the Magic, Dream, and Fantasy all docked in Port Canaveral for a few days in May of 2020. The Magic then sailed to Dover, England, so some of the crew could disembark, and they later did staycations on that ship. The Dream also headed to the Caribbean, and the Fantasy sailed to South America. Finally, some good news in early May. Joe Schott, president and general manager of Shanghai Disney, announced that Shanghai Disneyland would reopen on May 11th, 2020. Disneytown and Wishing Star Park had reopened previously. On opening day, new policies had been put in place to protect the guests. Mask and temperature checks before entering the parks were now mandatory. Social distancing in queues were made possible by purple mats placed on the ground showing where guests needed to stand. Ride vehicles had to be regularly disinfected, and rides like Buzz Lightyear Planet Rescue required disposable gloves. Meet and greets with characters had to be at a distance, and parades, theater shows, and fireworks did not return on opening day. Disney Springs was the next property to reopen. It would reopen on May 20th. A few of the third-party shops and restaurants would reopen. Disney would implement the strict cleaning and social distancing rules at Disney Springs seen at Shanghai Disneyland. Disney Springs' capacity was also reduced. Disney Springs' reopening was successful, and Florida allowed the rest of Disney World to reopen. On May 27, 2020, Disney laid out its reopening plans. Disney presented their plans to the Orange County Task Force. Their plan was mask and temperature checks would be mandatory for guests. Disney will reduce capacity at the parks and resorts. Parks will temporarily suspend parades, fireworks, and theater shows, enable cashless transactions by expanding contactless payments, and increase the number of hand sanitizing stations. Disney hoped to reopen Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom on July 11th, and Epcot Hollywood Studios on July 15th. The Orange County Task Force approved the plan on the morning of May 27th. A few days later, on May 29th, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis approved Disney's plans and made it official that Disney World would reopen on July 11th and 15th.
Al, it's at least we have a date, right? Because that has been what folks have been waiting for, is the date. Now, I got a chance last night for the first time in almost 3 months to have dinner at a restaurant. We were over at, went over to Morton Steakhouse on Restaurant Row in Dr. Phillips. And I'll tell you, the restaurant was practically empty, but, and it was, I mean, they were very, very, I mean, everybody had to sanitize before they walked in. Anybody who walked through the door, because I went out to go get something out of my car, came back in, they pointed me to the hand sanitizer. So, all the servers were wearing masks. Obviously, you're sitting down to eat. Guests are not wearing masks, but they kept everybody I mean, like I said, there wasn't a lot of people in the restaurant. It kind of was like saying, okay, I can see how this will work, at least for right now.
On June 14th, Hong Kong Disneyland announced that the park would reopen on June 18th, 2020. A reservation system was put into place, and on reopening day, Hong Kong Disneyland's attractions, shops, and restaurants opened with reduced capacity. The same social distancing and mask rules were also implemented in Hong Kong Disneyland. On June 3rd, Disney announced that Vero Beach and Hilton Head resorts would reopen on June 15th, 2020. On June 22nd, the Disney World DVC resorts would reopen. Those resorts included Bay Lake Tower, Boulder Ridge and Copper Creek, Kidani Village, Beach Club Villas, Boardwalk Villas, Old Key West, Polynesian Villas, Riviera, Saratoga Springs, and the villas at Grand Floridian. June 24th was a big day for Disneyland fans. Disney proposed its reopening plans. The plans stated that Downtown Disney District would reopen on July 9th, Disneyland Park and California Adventure would reopen on July 17th, Grand Californian and Paradise Pier would reopen on July 23rd. This plan would be approved, but when it got time to get approval by California Governor Gavin Newsom, he had other plans. The state of California said that they would not be approving any theme park plans for reopening until sometime after July 4th. This didn't give Disney enough time to proceed with the proposed plans, so Disney had to delay the reopening of the Disneyland parks. Downtown Disney District still reopened on July 9th, however, since Disney had gotten approval to reopen the shopping district previously. Good news still continued to break as Tokyo Disney reopened on July 1st.
If you want to experience these theme parks at 30% capacity, this is the time to do it. I mean, as Disney fans, what do we complain about? The number one thing we complain about, other than price, is our crowds. So, looking for the silver lining in an awful situation, that's it.
The days had finally come. On July 11th, 2020, Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom opened its gates again for the first time since March 2020. 4 days later, Epcot and Hollywood Studios reopened. By this date, Jambo House, Pop Century, and Contemporary Resort had reopened as well. Disneyland Paris reopened on July 15th as well. Walt Disney Studios Park, Newport Bay Club Hotel, and Disney Village would reopen on the same day. Disney's troubles wouldn't end yet, since Hong Kong Disneyland would close again in July due to a rise in COVID numbers. It would reopen on September 25th. Disney had to lay off 28,000 cast members in September 2020 and reported a $3.5 billion loss in operating profit in the parks, experiences, and products division. Disneyland Paris shut down again in October 29th due to France ordering a second COVID lockdown. In November, Hong Kong was forced to close yet again and Disney announced Disneyland Paris would be closed through the holiday season in 2020. Also in November 2020, Disney announced in its earnings call that the company had lost $6.9 billion in 2020 due to the ongoing pandemic. 2020 started off great, since Hong Kong Disneyland did reopen as intended in February. But one question still remained. When will Disneyland reopen? Well, after a year of waiting, Disneyland and California Adventure officially announced on March 17th that they would reopen on April 30th, 2021. The day was a day of celebration as Disneyland reopened its doors and let guests experience the magic yet again. Disneyland Paris finally reopened on June 17th, 2021. These reopenings meant so much to guests, one even describing it as like coming home to family. And I can say that stepping foot inside of a Disney park again in March of 2021, almost exactly a year after Disney World closed, was more special than it normally is. Disney Cruise Line resumed operations with the Magic hosting staycations in the United Kingdom. The Dream resumed sailings from Port Canaveral in August 2021. The Magic then sailed from Miami, and the Fantasy resumed sailings in September. The Wonder sailed again in November from San Diego.
Oh, we love you, CMs. I know, look, they're over there too. Thank you, guys. She looks beautiful. Oh my gosh. Wow. So amazing. Hey! I miss you guys too.
Hey guys! Oh, I love it!
Oh man.
Hey guys! Hey guys!
Oh. Yeah, Ken. There he is. There he is. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Mr. Chapek. Yeah. Here comes Steve. Yeah. Woo. Yeah.
I've always said that COVID is never going to go away. With vaccines becoming more available, it isn't as deadly as it once was, but it is still a problem and still a pandemic. The thought of it just magically going away that some people had in summer of 2020 was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, because that's not how basic science works. So because of this ongoing threat, Hong Kong Disneyland did close again in January 2022 due to Hong Kong's COVID guidelines. The closure was extended a few times but reopened on April 21st, 2022. Social distancing and mask rules started to be changed in Disney parks, in the US at least, slowly starting in early 2021. By April 2022, masks were no longer required in the US Disney parks. We also started to see theater shows return. But the two things that I was waiting for were fireworks and traditional character meet and greets to return. July 1st, 2021 was the day myself and fireworks fans were waiting for, as Happily Ever After returned to the Magic Kingdom and Epcot Forever returned to Epcot. People who were there described it as the magic finally returning, and for a lot of people, myself included, at some point in the lockdown, we didn't think we would ever see Disney fireworks again, so it was quite special to see them. Characters still needed to return though. I was waiting to receive that news, and it finally came in April 2022. Disney was so different when I wasn't able to hug or even see my favorite characters, and characters are very, very, very important to me and the Disney experience, because a lot of my memories, like my favorite Disney memories, are because of the character encounters. So it's amazing knowing that you can meet face to face again and you don't need to, be distance from the characters. You can again hug Mickey. Well, there you have it. A video about something very, very recent. A video that was partly written when these events were happening. And honestly, events that we never really want to relive. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by leaving a like and consider subscribing. It would make me a very happy man. And also, I would like to thank the Diz and DW60 for allowing me to use their clips in this video. And if you have I mean, everyone has a COVID-related story. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. So if you want to share a memory about returning to a Disney park for the first time since COVID, let me know down in the comments. And with that, I will see you all in the next one. Have a magical day, everybody.